Welcome back to Bible Shorts, episode 61. Are you the king of the Jews? Remember, in last week's episode, we learned how Jesus raised his friend Lazarus from the dead. Now, it's the week of the Passover festival, which is in the spring. And the crowd that had been in Bethany when Jesus called Lazarus out of the tomb and restored him to life continued to tell everyone about it. And now Jesus has decided to come to the Passover festival in Jerusalem as well. When the people in Jerusalem heard that Jesus was coming down into the city, they took branches of palm trees and went out to meet him, shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, the King of Israel." It must have caused a huge commotion, and I expect that the Roman soldiers and Pontius Pilate, who were in the city, were aware and a little nervous of what was going on. Later that week, Jesus had a meal with his disciples, in which he shared with them some bread and wine, telling them to eat the bread and drink from the cup. "Do this together after I am gone. It will help you to remember me." This is why we eat a piece of bread and drink some grape juice together in our church every month. Now remember, after Jesus had raised his friend Lazarus from the dead, the chief priests and Pharisees in Jerusalem had given orders that anyone who knew where Jesus was should report it to them so that they might arrest Jesus. And one of Jesus' disciples, a man called Judas, betrayed Jesus. He told them that Jesus was going to be in a garden outside the city walls. Now, it was really late at night, and the disciples were tired and fell asleep. But while they slept, Jesus prayed and prayed and prayed to his Father in heaven, knowing what was going to happen. Then soldiers, their officers, and the Jewish temple police came and arrested Jesus and bound him and took him to the priests of the Jerusalem temple. The religious leaders questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching. Jesus answered, "I have spoken openly to the world. I have always taught in synagogues and in the temple where all come together. I have said nothing in secret." Jesus continued, "Why do you ask me? Ask those who heard what I said to them. They know what I said." And this infuriated the religious leaders. And eventually, they took Jesus to the headquarters of the Roman governor, a man called Pontius Pilate. Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you ask this on your own, or did others tell you about me?" Pilate replied, "I'm not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom does not belong to this world. If it did, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to you." Pilate said, "So you are a king?" And Jesus answered, "You say that I'm a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." And Pilate said, kind of sarcastically, "What is truth?" And then Pilate's Roman soldiers made a crown of thorns, put it on Jesus' head, and made fun of him. Pilate then went out to the crowd and said, "See, I am bringing him out to you, that you may know I find no crime in him." Pilate said, "Behold, the man." When the chief priests and the officers saw him, they cried out, "We have a law, and by that law he ought to die, because he has made himself the Son of God." When Pilate heard these words, he suddenly became afraid, and he asked Jesus, "Where are you from?" But Jesus gave no answer. Pilate said to him, "You will not speak to me? Do you not know that I have the power to release you and the power to have you killed?" And Jesus answered him, "You would have no power over me unless it had been given you from above." Upon this, Pilate sought to release him, but the crowds cried out, "If you release this man, you are not Caesar's friend. Everyone who makes himself a king sets himself against Caesar." Now, this Caesar they're talking about was the head of the whole Roman Empire. And so it's like he's the big boss of Pontius Pilate. And if Caesar heard about this, Pontius Pilate was really afraid of what Caesar might do to him. The crowd cried out, "Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Shall I crucify your king?" The priests answered, "We have no king but Caesar." So Pilate handed Jesus over to be crucified. Oh no. What happens next? Look for episode 62 on Easter Sunday, The Empty Tomb.